Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to dive into an interesting topic that has been buzzing around lately. Is Iceland truly the most expensive country in the world? We'll explore the reasons behind its reputation as a costly destination, uncover some surprising facts, and see if it lives up to its expensive tag. So, without further ado, let's get started. Before we talk about how much it costs, let's take a moment to look at how beautiful Iceland is. Iceland has become a dream location for many travelers because of its beautiful scenery, geothermal hot springs, and the amazing northern lights. But it's not a secret that Iceland has a reputation for being expensive. But is it really the place with the highest prices? Let's find out. Factors contributing to cost of living. Before we get into the details, let's talk about what makes up the cost of living in a country. Housing, food, transportation, fun, and taxes are some of the most important things. By looking at these things, we can get a better idea of where Iceland stands. Housing. Let us begin with housing. Prices on Iceland's real estate market have gone up a lot in the past few years. In Reykjavik, the main city, housing costs are the highest in the country as a whole. Prices have gone up because there isn't much land and the tourism business is doing well. Compared to the other places around the world, it can be very expensive to rent an apartment in Reykjavik. When it comes to the cost of living and overall prices, Iceland is always near the top. Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland, is often in the top 10 most expensive towns in the world. Prices are higher because of the things like high taxes, high import costs, and lack of a local output. The cost of items and services is also affected by how far away Iceland is and how few people live there. Accommodation is another big cost in Iceland. Hotels can be quite pricey, especially in places that are popular with tourists. There are other options like guest houses, hostels, and camping places that can help you save a lot on your lodging costs. Airbnb and other rental sites also have a wide range of choices for people with different budgets. Food. Let's talk about food now. Food prices in Iceland tend to be higher than in many other countries because the country is far away and depends on imports. Fresh vegetables, meat, and dairy goods can be very expensive, but it's important to know that eating out in Iceland can be expensive, while getting groceries and cooking at home can save money. When it comes to food, it can be very expensive to eat out in Iceland. Prices go up because of imported goods and the high costs of running a restaurant, but you can still find options that won't break the bank if you check out local shops, fast food chains, or even popular hot dog stands. These places serve tasty food that won't break the bank. Transportation. Next is transportation. Iceland is in a remote area and there aren't many people living there. This makes transportation costs higher. When figuring out the total cost, transportation can also play a role. If you want to see a lot of the country, it can be very expensive to rent a car or take public transportation. Keep in mind though, that Iceland's public transportation system works well and is well kept. Travelers who want to see the country at their own pace often choose to rent a car in Iceland, but it can be pricey to rent a car, and gas prices are pretty high. On the other hand, Reykjavik's public transportation is dependable and easy to use, making it a cheap way to get around the city. Entertainment. Let's move on to entertainment. Iceland has beautiful natural sights like mountains, waterfalls, and hot springs, but some things to do there can be expensive. For example, guided tours to famous tourist destinations like the Blue Lagoon or the Golden Circle can cost a lot, but it's important to remember that there are also many free or cheap things to do, like exploring and taking in the beautiful scenery. Tax system. Finally, let's talk about taxes. The tax system in Iceland is progressive, which means that people with higher incomes pay higher taxes. Iceland's taxes aren't as low as those in some other countries, but it's important to think about the standard of the public services and social benefits that these taxes pay for, like good healthcare and education. Is Iceland the most expensive country? Iceland is a very expensive place to live or visit, but it's important to remember that the cost of living is different for everyone. Many things like its remote position, small population, and reliance on imports contribute to its high prices. Also, the standard of services and infrastructure in Iceland is usually very good, which helps to explain some of the higher prices. Also, if we look at how much it costs to live in other Nordic countries like Norway or Switzerland, Iceland's prices might not seem as high. It all depends on the economic and social situation of the country. You should also note that the value of currency contributes to the idea that Iceland is an expensive place. Exchange rates are a big part of how cheap a place seems to be to people from other countries. Changes in exchange rates can make it more or less expensive for guests to live in a country. Even though prices are higher, Iceland has become a popular place for tourists to visit in recent years. People come from all over the world to see the country's beautiful scenery, unique natural phenomena, and lively cultural scene. Many tourists think that the memories and experiences they get from their time in Iceland are worth more than the money they spend to get there. It's also important to remember that there are ways to cut costs when you go to Iceland. You can save money by making making a plan ahead of time, studying cheap places to stay and eat, and choosing self-guided tours or going on your own. Also, if you go during the slow seasons or off-peak times, you might find that prices are lower. Take a look at the question of how much Iceland costs from a fair point of view. Even though it may be expensive in some ways, it's important to think about the quality of life, services, and experiences that the country has to give. Iceland's efforts to be sustainable protect the environment and help people make it a special and valuable place to live. In conclusion, while Iceland is undeniably an expensive country, labeling it as the most expensive in the world requires careful consideration. The country's remote location, limited population, high dependence on imports, and quality of services all contribute to its higher cost of living. However, the incredible natural wonders, cultural experiences, and exceptional quality of life also make it a destination well worth exploring. And that wraps up our discussion on whether Iceland is the most expensive country in the world. We hope you found this analysis informative and thought-provoking. As always, we encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comment section below. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next video. Safe travels.